All right, so we are ready to rock and roll, guys. Thanks for joining us today on this webinar on this beautiful Tuesday. All you guys know who I am, Brandon Cunningham, and I've got a special guest with us today, Steve Snyder. He is an account manager, one of the know-it-alls when it comes to Zoom. I
Don't go
got
that far,
to see. I'm putting pressure on you, buddy. I'm gonna
right?
I'm gonna build it up. I'm gonna build it up. I got to meet Steve in Denver at our Elite Academy. He's a guy that Gary Stern had contacted in an attempt to do some really cool things with LifeVantage, and we're still in the process of doing that. But just today, he's going to be able to share with you some really good tips on how to use Zoom effectively. More importantly, we're going to go over some of the hurdles that we see in the field with getting our new distributors or potential distributors to use Zoom. So in other words, if you've never used Zoom before, how do we make that process as easy as possible? Steve's going to go over that, as well as something that's really cool that I'm learning and is available to us. Like right now, we are broadcasting not only on this Zoom webinar, but we are broadcasting live on Facebook on a specific group. And you can put it in any group if you want. So Steve's going to walk you through that. But we're going to this is recording so that we'll have it on our team pages so that our entire team, thousands of people, can watch this training and get the benefit of Zoom and this technology. And so you guys know, many of you know, I've been hosting webinars and video conferences on Zoom for quite some time now. I don't even know. I think, Steve, I think you said my account started in 2015 when we were going through some of that stuff, I think. And anyway, I loved it right away because previously I was using Skype, and it was not to bash on anybody, but it wasn't consistent. It just wasn't easy enough for people to interface with it. And so as soon as I got on this platform, I loved it. I love the fact that we have the feature that we can use this on our cell phones. And if someone can't tie in by Wi-Fi, they can at least get on the phone call and listen in or even participate sometimes in these meetings. So super easy for people to be able to communicate. And that's what it's all about, right? It's communicating with people. And so I'm a big fan of Zoom. It has saved me thousands of hours of travel. As you guys know, I travel all over the world. And years ago, you know, I would jump on a jet, spend the money, leave my family to find out if somebody was for real. And now I can find out if they're for real by our Launch 60 program and our Zoom meetings, right? It's not as good as being face-to-face, but it's a lot better than just a phone call. And so I do meetings across town sometimes. You know, if I can't get across town because of traffic, I can do one meeting and then I can jump on a Zoom and be across town virtually through Zoom. So I'm super excited about the platform. And I talked to Steve about coming on with us and from an insider walking us through some of this. Now, guys, Zoom has all the tutorials, video tutorials you'll ever need to figure this out. So you should never have to go, well, how do I do this or how do I do that? If you do, it's okay, but literally, if you go on Zoom, and Steve will walk you through it, there's video tutorials to walk you through all of this stuff. And even someone like myself, who is extremely busy and, you know, I'm not a real techie person. If you want it bad enough, it's pretty easy to figure out. So anyway, Steve, I'm excited for you to be on with us today and excited for you to share the information that you've prepared for us. So why don't you first tell us a little bit about yourself, Steve? You know, what you did before Zoom and how long you've been at Zoom and what your job and what do you do there at Zoom?
Sure. Appreciate that. Well, thank you very much for the introduction, having us on today. At Zoom, I'm here. I'm an account executive working with our direct sales and network marketing companies, basically looking to work with our customers to make sure that they get the most out of Zoom. So looking to help accelerate sales cycles. I have customers that are using it specifically to manage their teams, others to grow their networks, and really benefit from being able to reach so many more people. So previously to Zoom, in sales in a number of different roles, the last 6 years actually spent in the energy industry. So a little bit of shift coming to Zoom here, but I absolutely love it. The company has been absolutely fantastic, and it's a win all the way around. So
awesome. So that's something I didn't know. I didn't know that you were specifically working with direct sales and network marketing organizations. That's cool.
I am. So, basically having a number of different conversations with a number of different organizations, pulling tips and tricks and best practices that other people have learned or have told us along the way. So trying to basically compile all of that stuff so that we can relay it to all of our customers to make everybody that much more efficient at using Zoom.
Cool.
And we're seeing a lot of exactly what you had mentioned too, right? So saving money on having to fly across town or fly, to a different state to meet with somebody, to drive across town. Oftentimes, when you're meeting with somebody for the first time, there's something that comes up. You have to cancel that meeting, but you've already driven an hour to go meet somebody. So there's a cost savings, a time savings, and it really just helping people become more productive in their businesses.
Cool. Well, tell me, let's start at the top. So let's just assume, the people that are on here are pretty savvy people. It's 4 o'clock. So that means that many of these people are full-time networkers, as they don't have a job, in other words, right? So the people that are watching this live right now, for the most part, know the answers to these questions, but the thousands of people that are going to watch it later do not. But let's assume we want to get someone on a Zoom that doesn't even know what Zoom is, right? What's the easiest way? What's the easiest way to get someone into a Zoom meeting?
Yep. So just send them the link. They'll click on that link and they'll jump right into that Zoom meeting. It doesn't require you to have any sort of account with Zoom, but it does require you to download Zoom to your device. So we work across most devices, whether that's mobile, an iPad, an actual phone, or even a desktop device. So they'll click on that. If they don't have Zoom downloaded already, it'll prompt them to download that. And if they do, it'll jump them right to the meeting.
So if they're working from a desktop or a laptop, walk us through that real quick. So, a phone has an app, but if you're on a desktop, what's the best way?
Yep, you can download it right on zoom.us. If you scroll to the bottom of any one of our pages there'll be a download section. You can download that. First download is for Zoom. Again, if somebody sends you a link, it's going to, if you click on that link, it's going to try to jump into the meeting. If you don't have Zoom downloaded, it'll bring you right to the page to download it itself. Actually, it'll download the executable file for you. And then you just allow that, and then it'll jump you right into the meeting.
Okay. So if someone's never done it before, the smart thing to do as a distributor is walk them through that process, the day before the Zoom meeting, or at least, don't try and do it when the Zoom meeting is starting, right? Like, give them a few minutes.
Yep. Sometimes it takes around 30 seconds. I would say the majority of the time it's under a minute. So if you would just send that to them, tell them to join a couple minutes before. Certainly helpful. That way your meeting starts on time and you won't have those delays.
Okay. So, and from a phone, it's the same process, right? Just go to the store, whether it's Android or Apple, and get the app, right?
Yep. So same process. If somebody sends you a link, you try to click on that on your phone. It'll bring you right to the App Store on your phone. Again, either Apple or Android, whatever that may be.
Okay. And so now once we've got it, let's say we're not the end user. Let's say we're the person that wants to broadcast. We're the person that wants to do the meeting or the webinar. How do we schedule our first meeting?
Sure. So we're talking about two different things here. The first is the web meeting, right? So web meeting, very collaborative, just like you and I are speaking right now. Everyone can be seen, everyone can be heard. The webinar is slightly different in that it's meant to be a push of information from one to many. So especially in this scenario, we're on a webinar right now. You and I are panelists. We're seen and heard, whereas everyone else is an attendee. And those attendees can interact with us through a chat. We have a Q&A feature that they can interact with us through, but they're not able to be seen or heard unless we promote them up to be a panelist. So to bring it back to your original question, we schedule both of those slightly, a little bit differently. So what I can do is I can actually share my screen, and any panelist in a webinar has the ability to share their screen within either a meeting or a webinar, unless you restrict that. So this is my profile when I log into Zoom here. If I want to schedule a meeting, I have several ways of doing that. One of those is by logging into zoom.us. So I go to zoom.us, I sign in, and then I have this My Meetings tab, and then I can schedule a meeting right through here.
Okay.
Right. To schedule a meeting as well, we also have plugins that you can download for either Google Calendar or Outlook Calendar. What that does is allows you the ability to one-click create a meeting. So you would schedule a meeting just like you would schedule a regular appointment, and it creates a button on both of those platforms that allows you to make it a Zoom meeting. So the button is
where do we find that plugin at?
Yep, so I'll take you right there. If we go to download, so on the bottom of every page here, we'll have downloads here. So if I click on downloads, it is a plugin for Outlook, and there's also an extension for browsers right there.
Okay.
So this is the actual download for Zoom itself. If you don't have it or want to download the most updated version, you can do that too. But again, the site is just any zoom.us/download if you want to type it in directly, or you can just go to the bottom of each page and you'll see the download options on the bottom.
Okay.
And that would be the Outlook plugin right there.
So you can find it, and so that's for either Outlook, or you can do it for Google or any of those platforms?
Yes, that's correct. So if you on Gmail, for example, if you went to Google Calendar, wanted to schedule a meeting, you would double click on the calendar, and then it would be a Make It a Zoom Meeting button. You would select that, and it would automatically generate the Zoom information. On Outlook, it's a little bit different. We actually create a button that's up on top of the toolbar, and from there, you would just select that in order to make it a Zoom meeting. You could schedule the Zoom meeting right from that button.
Okay. All right. I think a lot of people are using Gmail. So can you show, I want this to be very informative for people. So I don't know if you're on Gmail. I didn't prepare this question for you, but do you have the ability to show them where that's at on Gmail?
Yeah. So are you seeing my calendar now here?
Yep.
Okay, terrific. So if I wanted to schedule on Gmail, I would just double click on the time that I wanted, and then this button would be populated right here. I just click on it, and then it generates all of this Zoom information right here. The meeting link is actually in the Where column here.
Got it.
And that is it's a randomly generated ID, right? So when I schedule my meetings, I have it, instead of using my virtual meeting room, I have it generate a random ID.
Yep.
So that I don't have other people jumping into what would be the same meeting early.
Right.
So if I schedule a meeting at both 10:30 and 11, I don't have my 11 jumping into my 10:30 if they decide to join early.
Right. And that plugin is available on your downloads for Gmail.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes, that would be through the browser. We have a browser extension there as well.
Right. Perfect. Perfect. Now, one of the things I want to bring to you guys' attention while we're talking about this is I want to separate the conversation a little bit from Zoom's regular broadcasting platform and their webinar platform. So, Steve, why don't we, you kind of explained a little bit just now about the webinar platform and how it's kind of a one-way conversation where you're giving information. But the other platform, the regular Zoom broadcasting platform, is one that's very interactive. And so I just want everybody to know that you need to be conscious of people's cameras on, because I have noticed many times if you go to do a presentation for a group and everybody's cameras on, it could be 10 or 20 or 30 cameras, and it's extremely distracting and sometimes embarrassing. Not really for you. Well, it could be for you because people have no idea sometimes that the camera's on. And I have literally seen things that no one should ever see in these meetings. So can you kind of show them how they make sure the cameras are on or off when they set up a broadcast?
Sure, absolutely. So in a web meeting, and I'll just share my profile with you again so you can see exactly where I'm coming from here. So again, I'll sign into my profile. If I want to schedule the meeting right through here, if I schedule a meeting, I'll select that button, and then right down here on video, I have the ability to start with my video on or off right here. Beautiful. So if I didn't want my participants to join with a video, I can do that here. I can just select off, and then when I schedule that, their videos won't be on when they start. In addition to that, During the meeting, I always have the ability as the host to manage my participants by shutting their videos off as well. So oftentimes that's in response to something. So it's more reactive than proactive. That's the proactive way of managing that. If you have dogs barking in the background, or somebody forgets that their audio's on and they decide it's a great time to chew potato chips, then you can actually see who's speaking with the microphone and mute them. So if you're the host of that meeting, you can actually go through and manage those participants by shutting off either their video or their audio to stop those distractions.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, because we run into that a lot where, you know, many times these invites go out and the people that jump on, you know, let's just say they're not as prepared or going to be as professional as we would hope them to be. And we want to have full control of the content and the delivery and the message. And so controlling those cameras are important. So just know that, guys, as you're doing this, if you plan on it to be kind of a one-way conversation, it should be just you speaking to them. If it's something where you need to collaborate, well, then yes, let's turn the cameras on, or at least you control it a little bit. Go ahead.
Yes. So to jump in, and the problem you're relating here and you're talking about is something that's usually experienced with larger and larger groups, right? So it's easier to manage smaller numbers, but you know, our webinar actually scales to 10,000, and those webinars are really meant to be, you know, it's a push of information from one to many, but you can also have up to 100 different panelists that can be seen and heard and interact. So, you know, really, it's meant, we say, more professional presentations, because you don't have to deal with the noise in the background or the people talking. So the webinar is kind of a way of being able to provide those trainings, still having everyone on to be visible and heard and present that needs to be, but it eliminates the need to have to manage those participants in that regard. So as you scale and as your meetings become larger and larger, if that is an issue for you, the webinar helps to curtail those types of problems.
So let's talk, since we're talking about webinars, let's talk about the different Zoom accounts real quickly and the fees. So I know you can be on Zoom for free. What are some of the limitations there?
Sure. So we have free accounts basically meant for anyone to join and start using Zoom, right? You don't need an account to join a meeting, but if you want to host your own meetings, you do need an account with Zoom. So it gives you the ability to host those meetings. You can have one-on-one meetings all day, and it could be an unlimited meeting as long as you'd like. Then if you had more than 2 people in a meeting, the second the third person joins that meeting, that's going to start a timer, and that timer is going to basically stop at 40 minutes. At 30 minutes, you're going to receive a notification saying, hey, you've got 10 minutes left in this meeting, you know, wrap it up. And at 40 minutes, the meeting will shut off. So the difference between our basic and our pro license, and I can share the plans and pricing page with you here. You get a whole host of features on the basic license. On the pro, it basically becomes, you know, that ability to hold those professional meetings. I've been on a number of meetings where, you know, people have come back to me and said, you know, Steve, it was the most embarrassing thing to have to tell 20 of my constituents that I didn't pay the $14.99 for the license. So, yeah. You know, really, the pro licenses are $14.99. It allows you the ability to have unlimited meeting durations with all sizes. So you have up to 100 different participants. 100 people can be seen, they can be heard, all high quality video and audio on all of these. And our pro licenses are meant for, you know, basically professionals through small teams, right? So anyone who's going to use this for their business, we suggest using at a minimum a pro license. Our business licenses are meant for, I guess, smaller organizations with a minimum of 10 hosts. So in a lot of times when working with independent consultants or distributors, it's really not applicable in those scenarios.
Excellent, excellent. So now that we know that, let's cross over to the webinar feature. What if I do want to have webinars? What am I looking at there?
Yep. So the webinar is, in addition to the license, you need a license in order to run a webinar. So at a minimum, you need a paid license, so a pro license at the minimum in order to run the webinar. And then our webinar licenses start at a webinar 100, which allows 100 different participants into a meeting. The cost for that is $40 a month. And then we scale, we have different packages all the way up to 10,000. So it's really a necessity of, or it's really a matter of how many people that you need within your meetings. And just to be aware, if we have 100 different participants, if we have a Web 100, for example, when we stream live over Facebook or YouTube, we can only stream to one at a time, but those only count as one participant in our webinar. So theoretically, you could purchase a webinar 100 and be able to stream live to Facebook or YouTube and capture as many people as you can possibly get to join or watch it later at a recorded time.
Okay.
The downside to watching it on Facebook or YouTube is that you don't have that same interactive capability. I don't have the ability as the host. If you're watching us live on Facebook here or on Facebook at a later time, you don't have the ability to interact with us the same way. They can put a comment into the comments there beneath it, but we don't have the ability to promote you to a panelist. So if you had a question, we couldn't allow you to present. We couldn't allow you to come on live and ask those questions. And we can't interact with you with the chat or the Q&A function as well. It's important for you as the consultant, because a lot of times our customers are using Zoom to require registration. So they're using it as a marketing tool to collect contact information so that after the webinars, if somebody has a question, they can follow up with them if they weren't able to address that question live in the webinar. And they're also using it as a marketing tool. Hey, if you enjoyed this webinar, I can send you a follow-up email and provide you links to additional information or whatever that may be.
That's a very valid point he just shared with you guys, that you can use these presentations as a way to be more thorough in your communication. So they can right there in the, either the chat or during the presentation, put their information in, their email address, and then you can follow up with them after the presentation's over. And so, Steve, walk them through how you broadcast on Facebook Live.
Sure. So two things. If you want to circle back to the Okay. Live in a second, I'll show you how to schedule that meeting, and then we'll walk through that process. Just to address it now, in order to stream live over Facebook, you're just going to start the webinar, right? So first we have to schedule it, and then you're going to start the webinar. Once you're in the webinar, there's a More button. Once you click that More button, you can select either Facebook or YouTube. Once you select one of those, it's going to ask you to log into your account, right? So once you log in, then you have the ability to choose from the pages that you own. So you can choose either a page that you manage or a group or a timeline, and you can choose which one you want to stream to. And then basically you're just clicking Go Live.
Excellent.
Right, so it's fairly easy. And I'll give you a tool for that as well, just because we're talking about that now. And this is going to be a fantastic resource for you as well. I've even got our chat trying to give me some help here, even when I go on the page. But if I go to our support site at support.zoom.us, it's a fantastic resource. I've been to a number of support sites, which you end up spending more time fumbling around looking for what you need than you do getting answers. But we have a whole bunch of helpful 1-minute instructional videos, how to join a meeting. So if you're worried about somebody not being able to figure out how to join a meeting, maybe they're not the best with technology, you could send them this video in advance. It'll basically show them a 1-minute tutorial of how to click that link and download it. And up here, if you type in, let's just say streaming live over up, and then Facebook comes up. So if I type that into our search, the first option here, streaming live with a webinar over Facebook. Each one of these is going to give you both a video, so it'll actually provide you a walkthrough in a video format. We'll also take screenshots, so this is the More button I'm talking about. Click Live on Facebook. It'll ask you to log in, and then you can select which where you want to stream live to.
Stay there for a second. Leave that up for a second. I want to make a point here, guys. What I did last week is I created a Facebook group just for practice. for the team and some of the leaders. And so you guys may want to do this. And so you don't want to practice on your profile page. You don't want to go on there and fumble live on your Facebook page because all your friends are going to see it. Create a private group where only the people that you've invited to that group can see it, and practice there, right? That's where you should be practicing your Facebook Lives in the first place, much less trying to link Zoom and Facebook together. And then where Steve has this up right here, you can see share on your timeline. That's yes or no. And then who should see this? And you can put it on your public so the public can see it, or you can share it with a group, or you can share it on a page. And so right now, we are streaming on Facebook Live, but we're only streaming to our Team True Blue group. I'm not streaming to my profile. I'm not streaming to my page because there's thousands upon thousands of people there that I don't want to know this information. They have no business knowing this information. And so that's one of the things you need to be aware is you can really customize who sees this stuff. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, terrific. And thanks for sharing that. That is a very good point. I actually did a few tests myself and had a few comments coming back because I did it publicly.
Right, right. Well, now let's give them some really cool news. Because they are affiliated with LifeVantage, and there's hundreds upon hundreds of LifeVantage distributors using Zoom. One, Steve and I and Gary Stern are working hand in hand with the corporate executives, Ryan Goodwin, Justin Rose, to really, really give us some value with Zoom. But in the meantime, we got some good news too. Steve, tell them how they can save some money.
Yeah, absolutely, and thanks for that. We've actually created a coupon code specific for LifeVantage members. So when you want to go on and purchase any of our Zoom products, we're going to provide a 15% discount on any of those services, right? So basically what you would do, if you don't have a paid account already, you would select whatever you want through plans and pricing. So you'd start there. If it's a pro license, you'd select that. You can have the ability to pay for that either monthly or annually. Anytime you pay for something annually through our website, we basically give you the equivalent of 2 free months. So you have that option. Beneath that, if you were interested in the webinar and you wanted to add that, it's listed as an add-on. You can select that separately. Then when you go to the checkout page, on the bottom right-hand corner, you're going to see a coupon code section. And right there, you're going to enter in LifeVantage-Zoom, right? It's not case sensitive, so all caps or some caps, it's not going to make a difference, but it's LifeVantage-Zoom, no spaces, and make sure you click the apply button. You'll see the discount right there in red, and that every month you'll be receiving those discounts.
Awesome, awesome. Now, what about for our friends that are paying, already have accounts and already paying with Zoom full price? Can they go in and get the discounted price?
They can have it applied for future billing, and they can email me at steve.snyder@zoom.us, and I'll put that here in the chat as well. But again, it's steve.snyder@zoom.us, and I'll be able to submit a ticket to have that applied for future billing.
Awesome. Awesome. So before we jump off of here, Steve, why don't you, if there's anything, I don't know, is there anything that you would like to share that you've seen best practices from Zoom for us or from other companies for us? Maybe give us a pro tip before we jump off of here.
Sure. Would love to show you. I got a number of things, and I'm sure we got more tips than we have time for, but 2 things I would love to share with you. One, because we're talking about the webinar, I wanted to show you this tip here. When you go to schedule a webinar, all right, we had the ability, and you use this feature for this webinar here. One is enable a practice session. I think that's very important. One, it allows you, before you go live in front of your audience, to make sure that your speakers are working, that your cameras are placed in position correctly before you go live in front of your audience. So I always recommend clicking that. Then once we schedule this meeting, I would highly recommend coming down here to the branding section, right? So it's this tab right here. You can put your banner, your logo in here. If you're going to have a speaker, you can change around some of those as well. But this is the important piece I wanted to suggest right here. The post attendee URL. Once someone comes into your webinar, it automatically opens a web page. And once they leave that webinar, it's going to display whatever this link is. So you have the ability to modify this. and our customers are using this and telling us that it's very powerful to send their customers to a call to action. Hey, we had a discussion about products. You can buy them right here. So you put them to a link to go actually purchase your products here. Sometimes they're giving informational webinars, so they'll provide additional information that they might, hey, if you like this webinar, you might appreciate additional information on these subjects. Or lastly, they're using it as a survey tool. So you can put whatever landing page you want on this, but you can gauge feedback, you can collect customers' information and use that. That's very powerful.
So guys, think about when we're doing Launch 60 and we're doing our Zoom launch video. Instead of a launch phone call, we do basically the launch on Zoom, right? And there's 5 or 10 guests on there. You can go in and put your replicated LifeVantage URL right there. So as soon as the Zoom's over, they go to your back office, to your page where all your products are. It can start shopping. So, Jess, it's recorded. You're going to have to go back and watch the recording, but it's after you schedule the meeting. She's asking, where's that link at again? Where's that branding at thing again? So it's after you've scheduled a meeting, go down to branding, correct?
That's it. Yep, and it's right on the very bottom there.
Awesome. Awesome. So we will continue, guys, to educate, hone our skills in. Steve, you've been amazing. I look forward to closing that deal with LifeVantage for you. I'm just going to go ahead and look into the future and say the deal is done. We're going to get this done and include it in all of our tech stacks down the road. Now the pressure's on me. Not really. Pressure is on our CFO to put his stamp of approval on the financial end of this thing. But I would love to see Zoom as part of our app, our family of apps and tech stack, because it is a big part of what we're doing. And it's a pleasure meeting you. Thanks for taking the time to be on here. And I look forward to adding hundreds and thousands of more Zoom customers through our organization to your account.
Love it. Thanks so much for the time, and excited to be working with LifeVantage. Here to be a resource for everybody as well. So if you have any questions afterward, please don't hesitate to reach out. Happy to help however I can here.
Excellent. As you guys add more features, maybe we'll do another one of these 6 months or so down the road.
Absolutely. I love it.
All right. Have a good day. Thanks a lot.
Thanks so much.